and have a good discussion. Those suffering from chronic Lyme disease. Alrighty, just one second. I'll get us started off. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mumbo Jumbo Community Conversations. My name is Chinyelu, and I will be our conversation facilitator today. And it's a little bit different today. We've started way later than we normally do. That's because today we were actually screening. We were actually doing a screening of Farming While Black, 2023 documentary directed by Mark Decana, I think is his name, about Soul Fire Farm and some of the other this growing movement of Black Afro agriculture. We couldn't, unfortunately, we were not able this time to stream that or to record it anyway. But we still want to have a discussion and make that discussion available to everybody. So here we are. We've all seen it. Hopefully, some of you have seen it. And if not, no worries at all. Please feel free to ask questions or to jump in. Yeah, I think that as always, we'll get started with our check-in, and we'll probably just go. We typically wrap up at about 8, but yeah, if folks feel like we can go maybe to like 8:10, 8:15, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, let's start off with our check-in. And for everybody who has maybe this is your first time coming to a Kepler event, the check-in is just something that we do typically at the top of every meeting, just to make sure that we're maintaining an awareness of the people in our community, where everybody's at, what everybody needs. And so typically what that looks like is everybody will give their number and their color, which are both just supposed to represent like how you're feeling in that day. That's on whatever scale you feel makes sense, 1 to 10, 1 to 100, 1 to infinity, whatever. And then there will be a sort of like an icebreaker question as well, that is designed to help us get to know each other a little bit more on that deeper level. So usually we like to do something that's related to the topic of the conversation. And since the topic of our conversation today is this documentary, I guess like I'll maybe do like if you've seen it, maybe just like a 1 or 2 sentence like takeaway or reflection. And if you haven't seen it, tell us what you're curious about. Like what makes you what makes it something that you'd want to come and join this conversation about. Yeah. I'll start it off. I'm feeling like a slate green 8 today. Feeling pretty good, especially after the show. Yeah, I thought it was really inspirational, really powerful. And it makes me want to go volunteer at OVC a lot more. Yeah, and I'll pass it over to this
Okay, can you hear me? My name is Rachel. I would say I'm feeling a 9 out of 10 because I like being around this group of people and hearing and seeing all the information that was in this documentary. Um, I guess I'll choose midnight blue as my color just because. Um, and what was the next part? Oh, uh, there was so much information, and I was so interested and empowered, but upset by a lot of the information in it too. Of course, because we know all the racism is there, and people have been ignored and and just scooted aside, and hopefully we can all become empowered to fix that or fight against it one way or another.
Nice to meet you, Rachel. I'm Sierra, and I would say I'm a strong like 8.5 right now. I feel really good, and I'm really happy that I'm here. My color right now, I would say maybe like a raw sienna or something, like a brown, but something a little warm. And my reflections of the film, um, as y'all know, I finished the book like recently. So this was really calming for me actually, because I feel the book was a lot and I really enjoyed it, but it was like the emotions you're feeling right now of like maybe feeling upset or angry or sad about some information. There was a lot of that in the book, and so I think that was a really good like individual read for me. But this documentary felt really good to share in the space of others. And yeah, I think it was delivered really interestingly to me as well, and I feel very empowered to do more. I'm probably going to go home and just check on my plant little babies and just be connected with the soil. So,
Plant
yeah.
babies.
My plant babies, yes. I'm like all my little saplings that are inside right now that I'm wanting to put outside into the ground. Right now I have some arugula. What else do I have? Some nasturtiums and rosemary, cayenne pepper, and Swiss chard. That's actually pretty big right now. So, yeah. Um, sure.
I'm Jeanette. I would say I'm a good solid 8, nice vibrant green. Um, Similar thoughts, I guess, added on to this. I grew up on a farm, and I know that the farm might, never felt like we had a lot of money growing up, but I still know that because of the generational wealth that we had, that the the my dad had a help because of his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Really, mother-in-law's family is the family that was in the area, and so wondering what to do with that as I see this. And I knew about the injustice, but it's kind of like you. It just kind of irritates me again why people can be so uh, blind and turn off and not see the impact that has and how that should be rectified. I was interested to see a variety of farming methods. One was more of the regenerative, and some of them were more the traditional agriculture. So that was kind of interesting as well in the methods of the different farmers that were featured.
Thanks, Jeanette. Alvin here, feeling like a 9, black dirt. And I definitely, yeah, for sure. I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was just the way that Leah and her family live their values and live with integrity and not just limited to their family, but trying to create community around it. Um, and even to the point about talking about, okay, we really want this to be beyond us, creating some kind of cooperative structure and engaging not just through the formal structure, but really through how they raise their kids, how they brought other young people and other like families and community that wasn't even limited to that geography too, and how ideas like that spread to other places. And to me, that was the most powerful, just kind of that intangible part. And it's easy to get discouraged by the negative pieces, but I think really what they did well was just that emphasis on what do we have the power to do with the resources that we have. And it's not always perfect, but that struggle is what brings people together too. Because if it was easy, then maybe people wouldn't have to come together and do it. But that is part of the healing and creating the kind of longer term change. So I'll pass it to John.
I guess I would put myself at a 4, maybe. I just had a whole lot of nonsense today that I went through and got 3 or 4 things actually done, so maybe I'm actually an 8 or a 9, but uh, am I the only other virtual on here?
No, we got one more. We got Tara.
Okay, I'll wrap it up quick. I echo what the other white people here had to say about discrimination and racism, and uh, we elected Obama as a president, so there can't possibly be any more racism or discrimination. I hear that and I just kind of go insane. Uh, I don't know how much I can contribute to this. I never saw the documentary. Are you guys at 38th in Illinois right now?
Yes, sir.
I should have stopped there. I use a rollator. I got a big old boot on my foot, but I could probably have found some place to park down there and wandered in. Uh, they have the typical white guilt of people that aren't Nazis or racists or whatever. Uh, Farmers were treated unfairly for decades, centuries, whatever. The law that I think they've got lawsuits against, where the maybe FDA is going to grant loans to farmers that have been denied them since the teens or 20s or whatever last century. And some of them have got lawsuits to try and stop that. And it just, I don't know how we solve the problems of the world, but I'll say I'm an 8 and I'll pass it on.
Tara. Oh, can't talk much today, but I'm feeling like a green 8 and I haven't seen it. Nas, could you open up the rest of Tara's? Thank you. Oh man, long. Haven't seen it, but interested in learning more. Oh, thank you, Nas. Okay, you can stop. Interested in learning more about the history of black farmers and learning about models that were used as I'm interested in communal homesteading and strengthening my relationship to the earth through holistic, reciprocal, and spiritual means of sustainability in food and living practices. Yeah, all that good stuff. Thank you, Tara. Yeah, I'll pass it to Nas before we get on with some more of the discussion.
Boy, I'm
Appreciate the
ashamed at what
chat.
Tara was able to put out there.
All good. Nas here, Purple 9.5, and I think my biggest takeaway was their relationship to the land. Someone said at one point that we don't own the land, and that the only reason they're using that language is because they've caught up in the system that is. And I thought that was really speaks to the time that we're in right now. Um, yeah, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for checking in. Yeah, John, I think it's really interesting that you said that you wouldn't be able to contribute because the specific law that you brought up that they had shut down was actually like a major point of the documentary. So I think that like, you're right here with us. You're exactly where you need to be. So yeah, and I think that like that is actually I think if there's any question that I think that we should take what time we do have to talk about right now, it's really about like, given that there are still these barriers in place, especially if you go through like the mainstream, like legal route, like how do you build, with those obstacles in your way, Yeah. And honestly, I think that like, yeah, that theme of like resilience and resourcefulness and like making a way, I think it's very prevalent, even from like the story of them like of Soulfire building their farm on land that the land assessor told them they'd never be able to farm on, But they took those practices and those techniques that they discovered from other people who, have had to do it, in those types of scenarios, and they applied those to their land to, to make it shake. So, yeah, I would be interested to hear if anybody has any thoughts on that, how to build with all this shit in your way. Yeah.
You're making me regret not coming down to see the movie now.
Man, you're making me want to pay another fee and hold another screening. Maybe we will. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that like the resilience is something that is like admirable, but it is upsetting that that is like the circumstance that has to be. But something I took that was like echoing in my head after it was said in the film, and I don't think this what I'm saying is exactly word for word, but it was something that the lady had told Leah, I think, in the film that you know, she said y'all, and I'm pretty sure she was talking about Americans, but really just we are like, how can we expect to plant a seed and not like thank it and give it love and expect it to grow. And so I think that that is something also that I took from the film that I will probably be echoing in my head for some days. And every time that I plant a seed is just like to have that connection with the earth. And I think that it is our duty to overcome the barriers because our land was something that was taken from us. And so it is unfortunate that those are the circumstance that has to be, but I do I think that it's necessary and that the finding people, other people that are like-minded about that is just something that's going to continue to happen. The rebuilding of the soil that was like all the organisms were tilled away. I think of that as something that I can see. You can see your change and you can see what's happening. Oh no. But maybe I'm just not talking loud enough. But hello, hello. It is I.
It's captioning.
Okay. Yeah, technology has its own mind. But yes, yes. I took a lot from the film, and I think it registered a little bit more to me than reading the book because yeah, it was just like delivered in such a gentle way. And it was easy for me not to be too angry about some of the facts because of the way that it was delivered. But like finding the silver linings and the hope, but also finding, just the facts that people have taught, the others. So yeah, that was something that I took away from.
Here, I would like to know what made you want to read it? I guess what did it teach you about your business?
What was the second part of the question?
I give that to him so he can ask the question again.
I'm just curious, Sierra, what prompted you to read it and then come and watch the film? And how does it inform kind of your vision for growing or community? Or I guess, is there anything that you learned and are thinking about?
Yeah. So, what prompted me to read it, I actually had seen it before. I'm not sure where I'd seen it, like some years ago when it first came out. And I never read it, but then my job right now, we're doing like a book club. And so we had a list of books that we could choose to read, and that was one that I really wanted to read. So I was like, yeah, definitely that one, because I am Black and I am learning to farm. And also the like cover was very captivating for me and yeah. So I was excited to deep dive into it. And going into the book there's a lot of like charts and like organized spreadsheets and things like that that were also really captivating for me. Lately I've been into nonfiction, so that was cool. And then yeah, seeing the flyer on Instagram, I'm pretty sure that's how I found out that this was happening today. And I mean, I've been saying to myself and to others around me that I'm just trying to find more people to have conversations like this with. And yeah, um I'm trying to like push myself to do that more because I can, be introverted a lot. So yeah, that's what pushed me here to come today, and I'm really happy about it. Some takeaways I am definitely going to try to implement in my own garden is definitely, I'm really trying to get better at growing from seed and just nourishing that whole process and trying to have a more connected mindset and purpose with growing instead of just like I just want food or I mean for years I've just had houseplants and they're pretty, but like now I have more of a purpose of why I'm trying to connect with the soil. And yeah, I do mainly container growing at home, so that's also it's like an experiment. And seeing, I mean, as you were saying with the sisters and just talking about how they grew up and all the hardships that they had to go through, and but beautiful things that they learned throughout the way. I really connect with that. So yeah, I definitely will be referencing my book, I think, throughout my journey of like trying to grow my own food and definitely thinking about these moments and asking more of my community, like asking more advice from people around me as well, I think is something I'm going to try to do more. It seems like they learned a lot from just talking to their folks. So yeah,
Can I
thanks
ask
for
how you
asking.
got into growing food?
Yeah, my mom, she always, I mean, we've always had like plants growing up in my childhood backyard, mainly like berries and herbs and flowers. And so that's kind of, I'm just doing herbs right now and flowers, but yeah, I would like to mimic that, but also expand. But just seeing my mom have that process and seeing how like beautiful and it seemed easy for her, like just we had so many herbs like all the time, just like drying in our kitchen. So that was something that, you know, I've always had just a really nice connection with herbal medicine and just things like that. So that's kind of what's inspired me to grow things for myself. Also, sorry for my language, but fuck the government. I'm like, I really like, I just can't. Like, I do not trust them. I do not trust anything. So I'm like with the food, like the, you know, just the farm bill, like all that stuff. Like it just really gets under my skin. And so I don't, I'm like, I just want to be sustainable. I want to be able to be self-sufficient. Like, yes. So that, yeah, those are my inspirations for that. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
To piggyback off of that, yeah, I think I started growing just for fun because my husband loves tomatoes and he loves strawberries, and I said, let me give that a shot. So it's awesome that the strawberries are perennial for us, and the tomatoes, I always have too many planted in my space. Um, and then my mom is big into herbs and the herb society, so she brought me a bunch of herbs. So most of those are perennial. If you need anything, let me know. I have a lot. Um, but the whole, I think probably 2020 and just the collapse of just seeing things disappear from being offered at the grocery store really kicked it into high gear for me, probably. It's hard for me to put a finger on exactly what really made me get into growing food more. Yeah, yeah, it just builds. Like, and once you get started, hey, I tried that. It worked last year. Let me add something else. There are plenty of gardening experiments that have failed for me, but then other things really work out. Um, but yeah, and I don't know if you heard of Freedom Georgia. You were talking about how to get past those obstacles. That was, I think it is a black community. They bought a large parcel of land with money they raised, and now they have a neighborhood that is theirs. It's Freedom Georgia. And I was following them on Instagram, and I think I donated money because I was like, yes, let me, let's do this even though I'm far away. But I'm like, how do we make that happen? How do we make that happen here? And Tara was talking about a housing cooperative and things like that. And I am very into that. I forget all of these things that, bounce around in my head when asked directly, what do you want to do? I'm like, yes, that's part of it is if we could have our own neighborhood co-op where we didn't have to rely on somebody else's rules and laws that weren't made for us in this time, that'd be great. And I wanted to find out more from Freedom Georgia, but they've kind of gone. They've met their goal, and so they're just living their lives now. They're not really outwardly telling people what's up. But yeah, more power to them. But yes, growing food, I think, is probably where you can start being, you know, autonomous and not having to rely on anybody else's system because they're just the food right now. My husband follows a TikToker who talks about the quality of food, and she's following the recipes of whatever processed food is out there. And she just knows more salt is going into things versus nutrition or whatever. And while I think that in my head, now somebody is actually following it and she knows what she's finding facts about that. So yeah, it's fuck the government is exactly right. I agree.
I guess I was thinking that where comment was made, where do you start? And like you'd suggested, you just got to start with what you can. And I keep thinking of OVC. There's land there to grow some food on. There's the structure of a greenhouse. I also wanted to say that you were talking about the soil and how it can be depleted so quickly. But I also saw a documentary, oh, I don't remember, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, about regenerative farming, and was just stunned at how quickly they can build the soil back up if you use the practices. And there was the one family there that was doing the regenerative and the cover crops, or they didn't say cover crops, but they were using the mulching, and so those kind of concepts. And I've seen that myself out at the mayor's garden, that the Soil and Water Conservation District's sample plot there, and how they've knocked things down. And I guess it's a frustration of mine that the church garden, we have a big donation garden at the church where I attend, and I can't convince the main farmer grew up on a farm like me, but he still thinks that he needs to farm like his dad farmed, and till the land every year, and um, put yeah, chemical fertilizers down every time you plant something. And so I really want to do more of that, but I see a lot of potential in the OVC campus to be able to do some of those kinds of things.
Anybody on the Zoom want to jump in here?
Two of us monsters out here. Um, the plant baby lady, I've forgotten her name. I'm so sorry. But I was wanting to say amen, or I was laughing at some of the stuff she said. It was so good. Uh, I've heard 4 or 5 times about Olivia's garden, and I keep meaning to get 2800 South, and I will sometime. Uh, it's just she doesn't trust the government, but we're such good white overseers. I don't understand how you could not trust us. Uh, Regenerative farming seems to be wonderful. Uh, the ACLU is one source that can try and help some of the legal things. I think if people applied for that, it might get something moving that way. And they say the people actually have the power here in a democracy. So if enough of us come together, I think we can actually make some change. I went up to the Tesla protest and stood out in front of the Tesla dealership in Castleton, and we'd get a lot of honks and thumbs up, and we got a couple of single figure salutes, but I don't know how much good it does. Uh, it's like this, and we need to do this 1,000 times over. Uh, I went to a library presentation at the Irvington Library about starting plants from seed. And I got a little container that somebody filled for me with a whole bunch of milkweed seed and dragon vine seeds. And after a week or so, I had probably 30 or 40 little sprouts. And I got the uh, peat moss, peat little planters, and I moved them all over to that. And I had 3 different watering things that I could put them into, and I ended up drowning them all. But we'll keep working at it. I don't even remember what all uh, my plant baby lady had to say, but keep it up.
Yeah, I think another thing that another question I want to maybe throw out there is, more around this piece of, well, one I want to say, it's funny that you mentioned OVC and just like soil restoration because I was over there a few weeks ago for a tree love event. And like a year or two ago, that whole field was like thistles and you couldn't walk through it really without like closed-toed shoes without getting your feet scraped up. And now it's all like clovers and dandelions and just like, so it has been really nice watching that land change slowly, clearing out honeysuckle and stuff like that. So, but I think one of the things that I want to ask is a big thing in the documentary was about like helping people reconnect like to this heritage, and it's really heritage for all of us, like human civilization is like in a lot of ways, as we know it now anyway, like built on different forms of agriculture and land stewardship and relationship with like plants and animals. And like, capitalism and industrialization has like caused us to sever that connection like mentally, even though, we still all eat off of the land. It's just like we don't know where our food is coming from these days. So I guess like, you know, in terms of reestablishing that connection, like helping to take people's awareness and thinking back to that place of like caring about where the food that you're eating comes from, and like caring about like the relationships that are necessary to like produce food, like how do we take people there? How do we shift the paradigm, like the thought process around our connection to the land?
That actually reminds me of what a big part of my whole gardening thing is for myself. It is connection gardening. That's what I tell myself. I'm connecting myself basically to, I think about what my mom likes to grow, what my grandmother grew. I remember her growing things in her basement. I remember her yard. I remember the trees that were in her yard that were not what anybody else had. Um, I and I think of when I connect to my garden, I'm thinking about what the earth needs, what the plant needs, what my family wants to eat. Um, I'm also thinking about how it affects my neighbors and the way they look at my yard, and they probably are not super happy with the way it looks. But we don't have an HOA, so they get what they get. Yeah. And it's all about connection. If you're connected to what the strawberry needs, then you're worried about if the earth is healthy that it's growing in. And just hopefully the next person who eats the strawberry is also connected to you and that earth and whether it's healthy or not. Um, it's just something that rolls around in my head, and I can't often put it into words. But when you talk about that, you're exactly right. That's what I'm trying to formulate, but I run out of words a lot. So thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, I think
Here-
something that you said is
Here's a
interesting is
question.
because, yeah, go for it, please.
Oh, it was a quick one. Just if she is running out of room or thoughts, don't ever plant cucumbers because drive you out of your yard. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Those vines, man. Tara also said having people be a part of stewarding a project. I think allowing folks to see something they plant and take care of it and watch it grow as a living being, as you would take care of a child, a pet, or a relationship in general, the cultivation and connection will form naturally. Yeah. And I think that reminds me of something that you said as well, Rachel, because it's also, you mentioned connection to the land and connection to the plants, but it's also connection to like your parents and your grandparents, your neighbors, even if it's like, your family. So I think that you know, the farming has never been like an individual thing, it's always like been something that you do with other people, and so I think that's definitely been an experience for us at Kepra. Especially with the Growing Good in the Hood project. I think that one of the things that's made that thing flourish the way that it has is that like people come and that's a place where like we have one of our members, Miss Lashonda, who talks about like how through Growing Good in the Hood she was able to strengthen connections with her family members, like in her immediate family, and like reestablish bonds that like had fallen by the wayside in some ways. So yeah, I think that I think that also just relates back to the cultural aspect of it as well. It's a communal thing. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess like I don't know. Are there any? Hold on, what time is it? Okay, yeah. Well, maybe this will be the last question, and then we'll wrap up. But I guess like are there any projects, growing projects here in the city that like folks either want to shout out, or projects that they would like to see? Speaking into existence. I'm definitely gonna. I'll do my shout out at the end as I close out. But yeah.
So I am here not necessarily representing Irvington Community Garden, but I did meet Sierra there, believe it or not, crazy, just last week. Yeah. So that is a place where you can make connections with humans and the earth. And we have some great volunteers there. It is the nonprofit project of Urban Growers Collective, and the garden were both founded by Xavier Skelton. And we're trying to formulate exactly how we want to explain Urban Growers Collective, but it's not just about plants. It's more about knowledge and art and sharing and trying to grow collectively as a community. I do believe I'm about right on that. So if anybody is interested in that kind of thing, that would be great. I am all about hearing about a housing co-op and Tara. If you can find me, find me. And yeah, anything that's not a data center that's being, they're purchasing all the acreage and trying to move in everywhere in Indiana. Housing and maybe buying that as a farm would be totally cool.
Yeah, I've got a few places to shout out. Definitely the Urban Growers Collective, and Irvington Community Garden, and then Soul Food Project is doing some good work here, and then also Flanner Farms. And yeah, I those are the ones off the top of my head. And I would love to see more like yeah, housing co-ops, but also I would be interested to see more herbal medicine kind of centered farms here and just in general. But yeah, that would be something I'd be interested to see and or learn people that are doing that on like a small or medium big scale. And yeah, that's what I've got to shout out.
Not a farm per se, but I was biking to I went to a housing seminar today, and I biked to it, and I passed a, I don't know what it is, inspection station or something for Dig Indy, and they used um, not kind of permeable pavers to cover the area. So it's the concrete blocks with the gravel or whatever. And so it's like a glimmer of hope, I guess is what I see is that
Mm.
big utilities are seeing value. I mean, it to some extent, it's like a well, duh. They spent millions and millions of dollars to put more capacity so that you don't just have runoff that loads up the system. So, but to think that they actually got it. So I guess that gives me hope and seeing some of the um, uh, what are they the um, native plants in um, the drainage. They're not rain gardens exactly. I've I've built a rain garden at my house, but the gutters that are doing the filtering and seeing a little bit of that around the city that can bring back some life to the sterile urban monoculture lawn kind of areas and that's an important part too of the whole um, infrastructure and there was something Tara said about on her comment that sparked another thought, but I can't remember what it was. But so there's to take hope where you can find it, I guess is what I'm thinking, and to find the urban, well, not it doesn't necessarily have to be urban growers, but areas where and maybe there's as as some of the current farmers are aging, kind of like our politicians are all getting so old, eventually they're going to stop doing what they're doing. Maybe that opens up new opportunities for young people with an interest and a desire, and we can capitalize on that.
We can
Well,
hope
I
the
want to
young
say,
people,
oh, what'd you say?
we can hope the young people do pick up the slack and not have more factory farms uh, buy up all the farmland. That's a scary thought that I
Yeah,
hope doesn't come to pass. But they offer a lot of money to these farmers,
yeah,
and that just takes more land out of the
yeah,
people's ownership and gives it to the corporations. Uh,
yeah.
Terry
Well,
had an
yeah, I want to.
awful lot of good comments also.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, watching the documentary with us, participating in the conversation. Real quick, I'm going to shout out Octavia's Visionary Campus. We have community stewardship days there every second and fourth Saturday. So 17 acres of farmland out on the south side. If you want to come and put your hands in some dirt, work with some seedlings every second and fourth Saturday, 10 to 2. Lunch is provided, and it's always good. And then we also have Growing Good in the Hood. I believe their growing season is just now getting started. That's a community garden project that we run. We also have CCFI, which is a food co-op that sources from local farmers to provide affordable produce to, you know, our community. And because folks have also been talking about community land ownership, I'm also going to shout out the Indianapolis CLT, which Kepler doesn't run, but Kepler helped found. So yeah, that's also running around out there. And yeah, um, yeah. Oh, and last one, Alchemy Plus. That is our virtual platform. We have a space on there specifically for people who are interested in growing and learning how to grow food and connecting to other people that grow food. So if you're interested in joining a digital community, like you said, finding like minds, go to alchemy.kepra.org. That's alchemy with a K. And yeah, join the Soil Society in there as well. And yeah, as always, what'd you say? Oh, and lastly, Next Generation Farmers is one of the programs that we've got going on at OVC, and that's a program where we give young people an opportunity to learn about, how to farm. It's like a summer camp, ages 13 to 18. I think all the kids get stipends. So if you know any young people who are trying to get into farming, send them to Next Gen Farmers. So yeah, shout out to all of you. Shout out to the folks at Soulfire Farm and Content Films for giving us the opportunity to, stream the documentary or, yes, whatever the term is for the documentary tonight, screen the documentary tonight. There it is. Yeah. Shout out to the Indianapolis Recorder, a longtime supporter of the Kepler Institute, and our community storytelling journey. And yeah, if you want to support the work that we do in urban agriculture and communal land stewardship, visit us at donate.kepler.org and leave a donation. And yeah, that's all we got for tonight, folks. Oh, y'all very. Alrighty, night, y'all.
Thank you.